Teacher Kenny's English for everyone, including you. Like I always say, hope you're doing okay, hope you've been studying, hope you're learning something, hope you're watching my videos, and don't forget to subscribe. Just takes a touch. Today, thought I'd delve back into a little bit of pronunciation. Sometimes, guys, words that end in ED can be just a little confusing. Because when you're learning English, you see ED in lots of things, and you know that, well, it's supposed to have this ed sound, right? Ed, depending on what you're looking at. And your teachers sometimes pound that into your head, ED, ed, whatever. And I know when I was in China, I had this a lot, and it's the way they said it too. It makes me go, because they weren't following a few simple rules. And if you know me, I'm not gigantic on rules, but some things you have to pay attention to. With words that end in ED, guys, most of it just falls into three categories. If it's voiceless, if the word ends, if the main word ends in a voiceless sound, like walk, alright, so we walked. And words that are voiceless, EDs, they end with a T sound. T. And so, like I said, walked, he baked a cake, and we have this T sound. If the word is voiced, I'm going to pull up an example now. When I get done talking to you, I'm always talking, I'll put these in a little sentence, and you'll hear me again, okay? But I just want to kind of go over this basic thing real quick. Voiced sounds are anything that comes from down here, like a word feel. You feel it right down in here. It's not like a breath, like it's not like that. So voice always comes from down here, all right? So words now like field, settled, and that sounds like and it is kind of like it's two syllables, but remember the main word is settled, so it's a two-syllable word. So then we just got the duh on the end of it. All right. Like I said, we'll do some sentences here in just a minute. And the next series of sounds, and this is a little bit harder to catch, and I'm trying to figure out the best way to say it. If the ED word ends in a T or a D, this is where we get the id or ed sound, depending on how your pronunciation is. It's all acceptable. So if we say something like wanted or wanted, I wanted it, but wanted, counted, got it. So that's where we get that ED sound. That's where that comes from. But that's basically it, guys, for this ED endings. But a lot of times I hear, especially with the ED sounds, everybody wants to put that ED sound on the end of those words, and a lot of times it sounds really funny. But hang on, and like I said, I'm going to run through some sentences, showing you some examples, and you'll be an expert. By the time you watch this video, you're going to be an expert with ED. No problem. All right. So let's go get on with the lesson, and we'll see you on the next little video. All right. So we'll see you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so we're back here with these ED word endings. Remember, in the video I said there's 3 different ways that we say them, and we're going to cover the voiceless EDs first, okay? So in other words, if a word ends in a voiceless sound, we're just going to it's going to sound like a T at the end of it. All right, and I got 4 sentences here, and that we'll look at. And all these are voiceless. All right, so the first sentence here, as you see, is Jenny walked all the way home. Walked. Hear that? I'll say it again. Jenny walked all the way home. All right. K, k is voiceless. All right. The next sentence we look at is both men dressed in black. And we have dress ends, that's a voiceless sound. Both men dressed in black. All right, so you should get the idea here. All right, sentence 3 here. Molly cooked spaghetti for dinner. That's voiceless. Molly cooked spaghetti for dinner. And we got our last sentence here is Mrs. Johnson baked, hear that, baked an apple pie for the potluck. Mrs. Johnson baked an apple pie for the potluck. All right, see, that's voiceless. All right, now we'll move on here, and we're going to take a look at sounds that are voiced. So let's take a look at this. Remember, voice comes from down in your throat. And these sounds are going to end with a D. All right, look at our first sentence here. He filled up the car with gas. All right, fill, ill, that's a voice sound. It comes from down in your throat. He filled up the car with gas. Our second sentence, Perry settled into a comfortable chair. All right, now settle is 2 syllables, but it ends in a voiceless sound. Oh, so we put the D in there. Perry settled into a comfortable chair. Getting it? Sentence 3. The baby cried all night. Remember, cry, that's a voiceless or a voice sound. And you hear it come from down in your throat. So the baby cried all the night. Our last example, your sister called after midnight. Now we got call, and you hear it coming from down in your voice. Call. Your sister called after midnight. See, this isn't so hard. Now our next examples, guys, in words that end in T or D, this is when we're going to say the ED sound. And so depending on where you're from, it may be id or ud. Just listen to me. I seem to do both sounds. Look at our example here. Tommy wanted. Hear that? Tommy wanted ice cream. So want ends with a T, id. Wanted. Tommy wanted ice cream. Our second example, she waited for over an hour. See, she waited for over an hour. Id. Third example, I decided to walk home. I decided to walk home. And our last example, she detested being called a liar. she detested being called a liar. So there we got our EDs covered. With a little practice, you'll be an expert in no time, guys. It's not that hard. It's like everything else, just a little bit of practice. So watch this video a few times, get to know these ED sounds, and I'll see you on the next lesson, okay? So you take care. Have a great day.